Forge FC is ready to take the pitch.
Simply stunning stuff. And finally, their goal. My word, what a rocket.
Now, let's get 3 keys to the match with Anthony Urciuoli on the Forge Audio Network.
Oh, look who it is. Welcome, Forge fans. 3 keys to the match. Anthony Urciuoli with you, brought to you by Volkswagen. It's a special one this weekend. That's why I'm wearing the very limited black and gold Forge FC kit from the opening. I know that this is a very polarizing shirt for some because the colors don't match, but listen, you're born and raised in Hamilton. You got an affinity for the black and gold. So I'm ready to go. And I know Forge is ready to go. And I have keys for Forge here to ensure they come away with 3 points. Now, why is this such a special match? I can assure you, Atletico Ottawa is treating this like the biggest match in franchise history. Atletico alone in first place right now with 38 points. Forge FC 3 points back. They're in second, but they've played 2 less matches than Atletico. So, in a lot of ways, this is a near... I don't want to say must win is an overused term, so let's not say must win. But I would say for Ottawa, they really want to get 3 points here if they have any legitimate hopes of securing that first spot. Forge has the games in hand. Overall, they're a club with higher quality than Ottawa is. So Ottawa wants to take 3 points where they can. If they drop this one, that's a punch to the gut for Ottawa. So 3 points separate these two clubs. By the way, Forge, not just Ottawa to worry about because they are tied with Pacific in points. Pacific, though, have played 1 extra match, and 1 point back of both Forge and Pacific is Calvary. Calvary, though, have played 2 more matches than Forge. End of the day, we've been saying this for a long time. Forge is in complete control of their destiny. They will decide if they want to finish in first place or not, because when they play their game the way that they want to play, we've seen it. They are virtually unbeatable. And if they can maintain that quality of play with, 9 games left in the season now, they're going to be awfully tough to beat. So Forge, as far as I'm concerned, Forge is in control right now. And 3 points would be massive against Ottawa. I would say a loss would not be good, to say the least. A point might be okay, but Forge 3 here would go a long way at this point of the season, especially when they have 2 back-to-back road matches against Valor on the horizon. So this is a tough stretch for Forge. Getting those 3 points early will be key. Perfect segue. Speaking of keys, key number 1 for Forge FC on Saturday, August 27th at 6:30 p.m. in our nation's capital. From the hop, Forge have to start right. Opening kickoff, Forge has to let it be known. We've heard it from the club, from the coaches, that last loss to York. Forge is on a 2-game losing streak, the last one at home to York. That loss hurt. And it was called the worst loss in the 4.5 years of Forge FC's history. So, the team's feeling it. And a big issue there was that, yes, they started strong. But after giving up the first goal, their play dipped. The energy was gone. The tempo was gone. Things got sloppy. There were a lot of turnovers. It wasn't the Forge that we're used to seeing, especially at home. Off the hop, though, Forge have to make a statement. Forget what happened. That loss, we're going to turn that into a positive. We're going to turn it into motivation because we don't want to feel that way again. And we are going to up the tempo and keep the aggression high because we cannot be beaten when we play the tempo that Forge want to play through their pressing. And that, by the way, that includes off the ball as well as on the ball. Playing with energy on the ball is, of course, important, but off the ball, especially against Ottawa, it will be equally important because you can force Ottawa into some turnovers. And look, Ottawa, the way they defend, the most difficult team in the league to break down defensively. So Forge FC is in for a long night if they aren't willing to run like the way they can. So off the hop, message sent. Forge FC is ready for this one. That's key number 1. Key number 2 connects to this first key. Key number 2 is Forge first. Yes, we know they are forever first, winning the first ever CPL championship. But in this one, they want to be the first goal scorers. Both clubs have, especially in recent weeks, looked dramatically differently, whether they're trailing or leading or tied. For Forge, they looked amazing against York to start. York gets a goal 7 minutes in. All of a sudden, Forge, their play just falls. Ottawa, we know they want to defend. We know they want to use that low block and hurt you on counters. Well, that low block is meaningless if you're trailing. Right? Forge get the first goal. All of a sudden, Ottawa's now forced to break their shape, break what has led them. Ottawa has gotten this far on that discipline, on that shape, on that defense, on that lower block. But if you score first, I mean, Ottawa has to start throwing some of the game plan out the window, especially as the game goes on. Scoring first will be huge in this one. And on the flip side, Ottawa's so difficult to score against, you don't want to be chasing. Because that's when human nature takes over and you start forcing things and getting impatient. It's only natural. It's very difficult to remain disciplined playing against that block while you're trailing. So Forge want that first goal. First goal is going to be massive in this one, and Forge wants to be first. Actually, before I get to the next key, I also want to add this because this is kind of it's sort of behind the scenes type stuff here, but you know the Canadian Premier League has U21 minute restrictions. We should say benchmarks. So every club in the CPL has to give 2,000 minutes to Canadian U21 players. Forge has surpassed that 2,000. They're at 2,006, so they're fine. Forge, Valor, Halifax, Edmonton, and York have all surpassed the 2,000. They're good to go. Cavalry's close. They're 12 minutes behind. They're fine. Pacific needs about 360 minutes still, certainly attainable through the last several games here. Ottawa only has 1,200. They need over 700 minutes still of U21 playing time. If they don't meet those minutes, they don't qualify for the playoffs. Imagine let's say Ottawa finishes first, but they don't meet their minutes. They would miss the playoffs. So this is an interesting side to I mentioned Forge first. Forge wants to score first. Ottawa doesn't have the young depth that some other clubs have. Do they trust a team full of youngsters out there against Forge? Probably not. So what does that tell you? Forge gets ahead. If Forge starts dominating possession like they can, all of a sudden you're Ottawa, you're saying we need this game, but we also have these minutes we have to meet. And that throws a bit of a wrench into your subs game plan and how they're going to get their minutes. Just between you and I, people in Ottawa, the club said all the right things, that they're not worried, they're going to meet them. In fact, actually maybe I should play that for you because I talked to Forge head coach Bobby Smyrniotis about the U21 minutes. So let's hear what he has to say in a bit. But first, I just want to finish my thought here. There are people around Ottawa, outside of the team, that are concerned. Could you imagine the fan base's reaction to finishing first, but then missing the playoffs because you didn't meet the minutes that were outlined for you before the season started? And these other clubs, 2,000 minutes. York has over 5,000 U21 minutes. Now, that might be reflective in where they are on the table, but still, Ottawa has to get those minutes in. And are they going to want to get those minutes in against Forge, against one of the top teams in the league, in a playoff type game with first place on the line? You're putting Ottawa in some uncomfortable situations here if you get a lead. A lead is huge for Forge in this one, and it's just as big for Ottawa. So first team to score will be in a pretty good position going forward in this one. All right. Key number. Oh, I'm sorry. I told you we'd listen to Bobby. Okay, let's get Bobby's thoughts on the U21 minutes and also how he approaches minutes. Because these are one of these things you don't want to focus too much on it, but you want to make sure you meet the minutes. Here's Bobby's approach.
My approach has always been never to monitor minutes.
Okay.
It's important, it's and I know Ottawa's had a little bit of talk around this. I think we had a little bit of talk around it. We always have to remember there's a threshold to be met, and I believe every team will meet that threshold by the end of the season. So it's not so much of a discussion on that. I'm sure Ottawa has a game plan on how they're meeting that. But for me personally, there's no we have to play this guy here, this guy there. players earn minutes. Players have to play. Young guys have to know that they're not just going to play because there's a quota. They have to be on the field working and doing their things and making sure they're keeping up. So for us, it's, we look at the players, how they're performing, how they're doing, and then we go from there. But every team has a way of doing it, and I'm sure it won't be any issue for Ottawa by the time 28 games are done.
Well, Bobby's not worried, but a first goal would go a long way for Forge here and putting Ottawa in a very difficult position here. Key number 3 for Forge FC, capital C. In this case, capital means our nation's capital. C means your captains. This team is chock full of leadership and experience. This is the time. This is the time to lean on your leaders. How many times have we seen Kyle Becker, Tristan Borges, Taron Campbell, Pasillas, these guys that, when I say leader, it's not just about being the most vocal guy or being the captain like Kyle Becker is. It's also about leading by example. When your top guys are out there playing their best and giving the ultimate effort, it is contagious. It is impossible to take a play off because you want to do what your leaders are doing. You want to match that. It's very contagious. David Choiniere has scored many big goals for Forge FC in crunch moments, and he spoke about some of those challenges facing Ottawa and dealing with that lower block this weekend.
It's going to be a combination of a lot of things. Be patient, finding those right moment to run behind, be accurate with what we're doing, with our movements. There's going to be a lot of stuff we need to do right to break their defense. But we've played them already 3 times, and we know what to expect, and we're going to be ready.
All right, so guys like David Choiniere, Taron Campbell, Pasillas, Welshman, Jordan Hamilton, Kyle Becker, Tristan Borges, Alessandro Hoja-Rapport, Ashton Morgan, Tristan Henry. I'm already missing. I mean, this is some leadership group you have. Lean on these guys. And if you are those leaders, this is on you right now. The team needs a better effort after those last 2 matches. And so if you are a leader, you're taking this personally. When your coach goes out in a press conference and says, this is the worst match we've ever played in franchise history, you take that personal. And I feel very confident. I don't know if you know, but I know that Forge's leaders are going to respond. Whether that results in 3 points or not, I guess we'll have to see. Now, if you missed it in the match day preview, if you do want that in-depth preview, it is available wherever you get your Forge content. Mark Noonan, the brand new CPL commissioner, will be a guest of mine and Jessica Lisi's this upcoming week. And not only are we going to ask him questions, so are you. Email your questions for the commissioner to matchday, all one word, matchday@forgefc.ca. Now, you can use that email address whenever you want, because you can use it to ask me questions if you want to talk to Jessica. If you have questions for Bobby Smyrniotis, the players, the organization, whoever you have questions for, you, if you just have general comments, you can send them to matchday@forgefc.ca. All right. As I mentioned, 3 straight road matches for Forge. They have Ottawa and then Valor and Valor again. They return home on September 10th for a 5 o'clock kickoff against Cavalry FC. And that's a big one, not only in the standings. I mean, we know there's going to be playoff implications there. On top of that, it is the September special. For $29.99, you will get a gold level ticket to the match and a beer sampling courtesy of Bench Brewing Company. So you get a ticket and a beer for $29.99 for that September 10th match against Cavalry at Tim Hortons Field. And, it's $5 beers before kickoff, so a lot of beer options that afternoon in Hamilton. Before we get there, though, we have to go to Ottawa first. That is next for Forge FC. Don't forget to tune in to the match in review following the contest against Ottawa. Plenty more Forge content coming up. We'll talk to you soon.
Forge FC is ready, and now you are too. This has been 3 Keys to the Match on the Forge Audio Network. Keep up to date on your Forge FC by subscribing to the Forge Audio Network on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts.